I died. It was a stupid way to go. After a 96-hour marathon of coding and caffeine, I slumped over my keyboard and never got back up. My monitor was still glowing with the PowerPoint I hadn't finished, its title a bitter joke, The Hustle Mindset, Fueling the Spirit of Innovation. How ironic. As my consciousness faded, I had only one thought. If I get another chance, I'm done. I'm checking out. I'm erasing the word hustle from my vocabulary for good. And then I woke up. Harsh sunlight, the distant sound of a garbage truck, and the worn-out, paper-thin fabric of a t-shirt I hadn't owned in years. I shot upright, my eyes scanning the room. This wasn't a hospital. This was the crappy, closet-sized apartment I'd rented a decade ago. Taped to the wall was a faded poster for some blockbuster hit from that year. The movie star grinning like he had it all figured out. I pinched my arm. Hard. It hurt. This was a dream. Connor Hayes, a 35-year-old idiot who'd burned out and died for a quarterly report, was back. 10 years back. I was 25 again, a year out of college with nothing to my name. A tidal wave of joy crashed over me, and in its wake, an incredible calm. I'd been given a second chance. This time, forget ambition. Forget the career ladder. Forget making a name for myself. From this day forward, my life had a new purpose. Do absolutely nothing. Of course, to do nothing comfortably, you need cash. I fished my ancient flip phone out of my pocket. The date on the screen confirmed it. This was a pivotal moment. With a decade of future history rattling around in my head, I knew about the earth-shattering events to come. I didn't need to think big. All I needed was one little tip. A small, unknown tech startup was about to release a revolutionary processor design. Within a week, its stock would skyrocket by 300 times. I didn't need to be greedy. I just needed to catch that one wave, make enough money to last me the rest of this life and the next, and then disappear. Find a quiet town on the coast, buy a house with a porch, get a dog, plant a garden. Wake up when I wanted to. Perfect. First things first. Seed money. I tore my apartment apart, scrounging every last dollar. I came up with just under $3,000. Not enough. I couldn't even afford a seat at the table. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. Robbing a bank was out. I wanted a quiet life, not a prison sentence. Alone? In my current state, I looked like I'd robbed the person who loaned me the money. Then, a fragment of future knowledge clicked into place. Apex Global, a corporate behemoth. In 3 days, their key partner in a massive South American energy project, Valerium Resources, would be exposed in a colossal accounting scandal. The project would implode, and Apex's stock would vaporize billions in the first 30 minutes of trading. It would be the darkest day in the company's history. It would also be the biggest failure in the career of its CEO, the woman the business world called the Ice Queen. That woman, an image of a face, beautiful and frozen, flashed in my mind. Isabel Sterling. I had died working for one of her subsidiary companies. Of course, she had no idea who I was. To me, she was just a myth, a name in the Wall Street Journal, a legend whispered about in corporate hallways. A brilliant, ruthless woman who lived and breathed for her work. We were supposed to be parallel lines, never destined to cross. In my last life, I'd killed myself trying to get into Apex, only to become another disposable cog in her machine. In this life, she was already my ticket out. The plan was simple. I'd sell this multi-billion-dollar tip anonymously to Apex's mortal enemy, Horizon Capital. They'd happily pay a small fortune for a chance to kneecap their rival. 100 grand? No, 50,000 would be enough. With 50 grand, I could get in the game, ride that 300x stock to the moon, and cash out forever. I walked to a 24-hour internet cafe down the street and paid for an hour on a grimy computer. For maximum anonymity, I used an encrypted overseas email service and carefully drafted my message. It was short and sweet. In 3 days, Valerium Resources will be exposed for massive financial fraud. Apex Global stock will crash. For a head start, wire $50,000 to this account. I pasted in the details for a temporary, untraceable crypto wallet. The recipient. I dredged the name of Horizon Capital's head of acquisitions from my memory. What was it? Something like Ken Zhao at Horizon Capital. Calm. I typed it in, letter by letter, double-checking it. Then I hit send. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. The door to my new life of blissful apathy was swinging open. I even started browsing Zillow for beachfront properties. What I didn't know was that as my finger hit the enter key, a subconscious slip, a ghost of a memory from my past life of corporate servitude, made me type a different address altogether. My fingers, moving with a mind of their own, typed out the name of the woman who was, in a way, responsible for my death. The email, worth billions, never went to Ken Zhao at Horizon Capital. Instead, it bypassed firewalls, slipped through security protocols, and landed, flagged in crimson with a high priority, unknown source warning on a massive monitor in the top floor office of Apex Global. In front of that screen, Isabel Sterling had just ended a conference call with the Tokyo office. She picked up her coffee, ready to review the next report, when my message filled her entire screen. Her brow furrowed just slightly. The air in Isabel Sterling's office always seemed a few degrees colder than anywhere else. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city's frantic energy, but inside, everything was minimalist, monochromatic, and silent. Isabel stared at the email, her expression unreadable. As the CEO of Apex Global, she got countless messages like this. Unsolicited business proposals, crackpot theories, and, of course, blackmail attempts. Her executive team filtered out 99.9% of it. But this one was different. It had bypassed every filter and landed directly in her private inbox. That alone suggested the sender was more than just a common troll. Valerium Resources. Financial fraud, she whispered, her manicured fingertip tapping a silent rhythm on the cold surface of her desk. Valerium was their most critical strategic partner in South America. The energy project was the cornerstone of Apex's 5-year plan. She had personally overseen every aspect of the deal. The data had been vetted by the best teams in the world. There was no way it was compromised. This email was either a pathetic, clumsy prank, or she didn't let herself finish the thought. Give me the heads of legal and internal audit. Secure 3-way conference now, she said to the empty room. Yes, Ms. Sterling, a disembodied digital voice replied. A moment later, the faces of 2 grim-faced, middle-aged men in suits materialized on the virtual display in front of her. Isabel, Ms. Sterling, I want you to use level 1 clearance. Run a deep-level forensic audit on Valerium's financials and project data for the last 3 years. I want a report on my desk in 3 hours. I want to know if it's perfectly clean or absolutely filthy. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of an unshakable command. Both men's expressions shifted. Level 1 clearance on a current strategic partner was unheard of. It was the corporate equivalent of a nuclear option. If Valerium found out, the deal would be dead, and the fallout would be catastrophic. Isabel, are you sure? If word of this gets back to Valerium. The head of audit began, hesitating. Execute, Isabel said, her voice dropping another 10 degrees. She terminated the call. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. She wasn't thinking about the email. She was thinking about a mistake she'd made 3 years ago, just after taking over as CEO. A misjudgment that cost the company a major acquisition. It was the only black mark on her record, and she had sworn she would never let it happen again. She didn't believe in anonymous tips from unknown sources. She believed in data. If the data proved this email was a hoax, she would leverage every resource at her disposal to find the person who dared to play games with Apex Global and erase them from existence. But if the data was real, Isabel's eyes snapped open, a dangerous glint in them. Then this person, whoever they were, was terrifying. Meanwhile, I was back in my apartment, blissfully slurping down a packet of ramen. 50 grand. Any minute now. I was already debating whether to buy a condo in Miami or a cabin in the Rockies. Life was looking up. The minutes ticked by. An hour. 2 hours. 3. I was on my second packet of ramen, and my crypto wallet was still sitting at a big, fat zero. What the hell? I was starting to get antsy. Did Horizon Capital think I was a fraud? That didn't make sense. For a shot at crippling their biggest rival, 50 grand was a rounding error. They'd be stupid not to take the gamble. Did I get the email address wrong? I replayed in my head. No, I was sure. I paced my tiny room, the frustration mounting. Finally, I decided to head back to the internet cafe. Maybe the encrypted service had a delay. I logged back in. In a sent folder, my email sat there, marked as delivered. I refreshed my inbox. Still nothing. Just as I was about to give up and start thinking of a new plan, a new email popped up. It wasn't from Horizon Capital. It was a system notification from the email provider. Dear user, your message sent to Sterling at Apex Global. Has been read. I stared at the address, my blood running cold. Sterling. Isabel Sterling? Apex Global. Apex Global. Not Horizon Capital. Apex. The company I worked for in my past life. The company I was trying to short. My mind flashed back to the moment I typed the address. The click of the keys. The name of my old nemesis, burned into my subconscious, typed out by fingers that remembered a loyalty my brain had long since abandoned. I had sent an anonymous blackmail note detailing Apex Global's impending doom directly to the CEO of Apex Global herself. A wave of icy dread washed over me, starting at my feet and flooding all the way up to my scalp. I was toast. Game over. I could already picture it. A team of stone-faced security guys kicking down my door, dragging me before Isabel Sterling. She'd look down at me with those Arctic eyes and ask, in that chillingly calm voice, "So, tell me, how would you like to disappear?" My new life of doing nothing was about to end before it even began, all because of a muscle memory brain fart. I slammed the laptop shut, bolted out of the cafe like a cornered animal, and sprinted back to my apartment. I locked the door, drew the curtains, and burrowed under my covers, trembling. What do I do? What do I do? Run. Where? With facial recognition and data tracking, a company like Apex could find me faster than I could order pizza. Turn myself in? And say what? Sorry, Ms. Sterling, I meant to sell your company-destroying secret to your worst enemy, but my fingers slipped. My bad. I might as well just jump off the roof. I curled into a ball, my head in my hands. All I wanted was to check out. Why was this happening to me? Just as I was spiraling into full-blown panic, my phone buzzed. A text message. From an unknown number. Account. Just one word. Terse. Cold. Unmistakable. It was her. Or her people. But what did it mean? She wasn't sending the cops. She was asking for my account number. Did she believe me? Did she investigate, find a problem? And now she was offering me hush money. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was a chance. A chance to turn my colossal screw-up into a win. To fleece Apex Global directly. But the risk was astronomical. This wasn't a business transaction. It was like negotiating with a hungry tiger. One wrong move, and I'd be shredded. Calm down, Connor. Just calm down. You know the next 10 years. You're the one holding all the cards. As powerful as she is, she's still playing today's game. You're playing tomorrow's. I took a deep breath, forcing my hands to stop shaking. I couldn't act like a greedy blackmailer. That would make her suspicious, and she'd hunt me down later. I had to be something else. I had to be an enigma. A mysterious guru who wasn't interested in money, who was just nudging the world for his own inscrutable reasons. Right? The persona. It was all about the persona. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over the keyboard for a long, agonizing minute. I didn't send my bank details. I typed back 2 words. Consider it a gift. Send. Then I turned off the phone, snapped the SIM card in half, and flushed it down the toilet. Done. My whole body felt weak with relief. It was a gamble. If she'd really found the problem and was sufficiently mystified by my guru act, she'd leave me alone. I wouldn't get the money, but I'd be safe. I could find another way. If she didn't buy it, well, then I was screwed anyway. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling all night long. I woke up the next morning in a cold sweat. I dreamed Isabel Sterling had me tied to the flagpole on top of the Apex Global Tower while she announced over a loudspeaker, "Behold, the moron who tried to blackmail me and sent the email to the wrong address." My heart was pounding. The sun was up. The world was quiet. No SWAT team at my door. No police knocking. Did I actually pull it off? I crept to the window and peeked through the blinds. Down below, life was proceeding as normal. People walking their dogs, jogging. It seemed my enigmatic guru persona had worked. A woman at the absolute pinnacle of power, like Isabel Sterling, might actually believe that there were strange, powerful people in the world who operated on a different plane, unmotivated by money. A huge sigh of relief escaped me. I'd walked to the edge of the abyss and stumbled back. Okay, so I didn't get the 50 grand, but I was still alive. The plan to do nothing could continue. I just needed a new way to get my startup capital. No more messing with corporate giants. I fired up my computer and started looking up lottery numbers for the next few weeks. The payout was smaller, but it was a hell of a lot safer. I was meticulously copying a string of numbers when I heard a knock at the door. Knock, 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 even, rhythmic, calm. My heart leaped into my throat. Who was that? Food delivery? I hadn't ordered anything. The landlord? He only came at the end of the month. Who is it? I called out, my voice a low croak. Silence. Then, a woman's voice, crisp and devoid of emotion, came through the door. Mr. Hayes, our employer would like to see you. A jolt of pure terror shot through me. Them. They found me anyway. My mind went blank. My hands and feet turned to ice. My guru act failed. How'd they find me? The internet cafe? The burner phone? I don't know any Mr. Hayes. You have the wrong address. I said, my voice cracking. Another stretch of silence. Then the voice came again, this time with a hint of confusion. But, Mr. Hayes, our records indicate you are the registered tenant of this apartment, and the phone number you used last night is registered under your name. Oh God, I'd forgotten. In this era, even burner phones had to be registered with an ID. I thought pulling the SIM card made me a ghost. To them, I was an ostrich with its head in the sand. My carefully constructed persona of a mysterious, omniscient guru instantly shattered. In their eyes, I was an enigma. I was just a clumsy, terrified idiot who thought he was being clever. It was over. This was really it. Mr. Hayes, please open the door. We mean you no harm. Our employer simply wishes to thank you in person. Thank me? Yeah, right. Thank me for trying to sell their secrets and screwing it up. I leaned against the door, my mind spinning. If I opened it, I was dead. If I didn't, they'd find a way in, and I'd be just as dead, but with a broken door. Either way, I was done for. Might as well face it with some dignity. I smoothed down my wrinkled t-shirt, took a deep breath, and pulled open the door. Two women stood in the hallway. The one in front wore a sharp, black pantsuit and wire-rimmed glasses. She was the one who had been speaking. Behind her stood another woman, taller, radiating an aura of such intense power that it was physically difficult to look at her. She wore a simple white silk blouse and black trousers. No makeup. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple, elegant knot. But her face, her eyes, I'd only ever seen them on the cover of Forbes. Cold. So incredibly cold. She just stood there, and the very air around her seemed to crystallize. Isabel Sterling. She had come herself. My knees felt weak. Mr. Hayes? The assistant asked, her tone professional and flat. I managed a stiff nod. Isabel's gaze swept over me, a quick, analytical scan from head to toe. It wasn't the way you look at a person. It was the way you analyze an asset, or a threat. Her eyes finally landed on the mess of my room, and the still open lottery website on my computer screen. Her brow twitched again, that barely perceptible sign of her displeasure. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. An enigmatic guru, hiding in a slum apartment, researching lottery numbers? My cover wasn't just blown, it was vaporized. Ms. Sterling, this is... The assistant began. Isabel raised a hand, cutting her off. She took a step forward into my cramped apartment. A subtle, clean, expensive fragrance followed her in. She glanced around, her gaze finally settling on the copy of Stock Trading for Dummies I'd left on my desk. You want money? She asked. Her voice was exactly as I'd imagined. Quiet, cool, and utterly devoid of warmth. My stomach clenched. Here it comes. The reckoning. I swallowed hard and decided to just own it. Yes, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I want a lot of money. Enough to never have to do anything ever again. Enough to just sit around and wait to die. It was the honest truth. But to Isabel Sterling, my words seemed to mean something else entirely. She looked at me, and a flicker of something I couldn't identify crossed her face. Wait to die. She repeated the words softly, and the corner of her mouth tilted up in a microscopic, barely there smile. An interesting way to put it. Interesting? What was interesting about it? Mr. Hayes, she said, turning her full attention to me, her tone now absolute. I'm going to offer you a job at Apex Global, Chief Strategic Advisor to the CEO. The starting salary is $10 million a year, with no ceiling. What? I was sure I'd misheard her. Chief Strategic Advisor, $10 million a year, because I sent an email to the wrong person? Ms. Sterling, are you serious? I stammered. I'm never not serious, she said flatly. The email you sent yesterday saved Apex from a loss of, at minimum, $3 billion, not to mention incalculable damage to our reputation. You've earned the position. It finally sank in. She had investigated, and the problem was real. My accidental email had been her lifeline, but I didn't want to be an advisor. I wanted to be retired. I'm sorry, Ms. Sterling, but I refuse, I said, mustering all my courage. The air in the room instantly dropped 20 degrees. The assistant next to her gasped softly, staring at me as if I had just grown a second head. Refuse Isabel Sterling? Refuse $10 million? Isabel herself seemed taken aback. It was clear she was not a person who heard the word no very often. Your reason, she demanded, her eyes locked on mine. I don't like working, I said honestly. My dream is to be retired. Isabel was silent. She just stared at me, her gaze so sharp I felt like it was peeling back layers of my soul. I braced myself for the explosion, but instead, she did something I never expected. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a sleek black credit card, placing it on my desk. This has $1 million on it. It's your payment for the information. Then, she produced a folder and placed it next to the card. Furthermore, the crypto wallet you provided, as well as every bank account currently registered under your name, have been frozen, effective immediately. My jaw dropped. You are a person of interest in an ongoing investigation into attempted corporate extortion. While the target was incorrect, the act itself is a federal crime. I can make it go away. But my price, she paused, her voice like velvet-wrapped steel, is that you come work for me. The accounts will be unfrozen when I am satisfied with your performance. I stared at her, utterly speechless. This was coercion. This was insane. This woman didn't play by the rules. She left the card and the folder on my desk, turned, and walked out without another word. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., top floor of the Apex Tower. I'll be waiting, she said from the doorway. She paused, then looked back at me one last time. And by the way, the lottery is a statistically poor investment. Your talents are wasted on it. Then she was gone. I stood frozen in the middle of my room, staring at the black card and the legal notice, my mind a complete shambles. I, Connor Hayes, a man reborn with the simple goal of doing nothing, had just been press-ganged into service by an Ice Queen CEO. My grand plan for early retirement had just crashed and burned on day 2. The next day I went. I didn't have a choice. With every cent I had locked away, not going meant starving. Wearing my only decent pair of jeans and a clean shirt, I stood before the gleaming, cloud-piercing monolith of the Apex Tower, feeling a profound sense of irony. The place I'd killed myself to get into in my last life, I was now being forced into in this one. Life really had a twisted sense of humor. Top floor, CEO's office. Isabel Sterling was waiting. She wore a deep navy blue dress today, which somehow made her seem even more formidable. Sit, she said, gesturing to a leather sofa. I sat, feeling like a defendant at his own trial. Your title is Chief Strategic Advisor, she began, getting straight to the point. You don't need to punch a clock. You don't need a desk. You don't even have to come into the office. I have only one requirement. When I need you, you will provide me with valuable advice. That actually didn't sound too bad. No regular hours meant I could still spend most of my time doing nothing. How will I know when you need me? I asked. I'll contact you. She slid a brand new, top-of-the-line smartphone across the coffee table. This is your work phone. Keep it on 24/7. I picked it up, my heart sinking. 24/7. So much for freedom. It was a gilded cage. This is your executive liaison, Leo, she said with a nod toward the door. A young man with black-rimmed glasses and a slightly frantic energy walked in and gave me a deep, formal bow. Mr. Hayes, it's an honor. I'm Leo. I'll be assisting you with whatever you need. I looked at him and sighed internally. Great. They'd assign me a babysitter. Sir, here are the briefs on the company's current major projects for your review, Leo said, handing me a tablet. I took it and swiped through a few pages. It was all impenetrable corporate jargon. Synergistic integration of renewable energy assets, AI-powered smart city infrastructure deployment. It gave me a headache just looking at it. Can I get an advance on my salary? I asked, looking up at Isabel. My rent is due. Isabel and Leo both stared at me. A $10 million a year advisor, and on his first day, he was worried about rent. I thought I saw the corner of Isabel's mouth twitch. Leo, take Mr. Hayes to finance and authorize a 3-month salary advance. Also, find him a furnished corporate apartment near the office. Yes, Ms. Sterling. Leo's eyes lit up, and he looked at me with newfound awe. What was he in awe of? My shamelessness? And just like that, I stumbled into the job of Chief Strategic Advisor for Apex Global. I was living in a luxury, high-rise downtown with over $2 million in my now-unfrozen bank account. My standard of living had skyrocketed, but I wasn't happy. Not one bit. I knew this was just the calm before the storm. Isabel Sterling didn't pay this much for someone to sit around and collect a paycheck. Sure enough, my peaceful existence lasted less than 48 hours. I was in my new apartment, deep into the final boss battle of a new video game, when my work phone rang. It was her. Get to the office. Her voice was as cold and sharp as ever. I sighed, put down my controller, and caught an Uber. The boardroom was thick with tension. Isabel sat at the head of the long table, flanked by a dozen senior executives, all of whom looked like they'd just been told their dog died. Leo led me to an empty chair beside Isabel. Every eye in the room turned to me. I saw curiosity, appraisal, but mostly skepticism. One man in particular, a slick, middle-aged executive with too much gel in his hair, sitting opposite Isabel, looked at me like I was a snake oil salesman. I later learned he was Ken Zhao, the company's executive VP and Isabel's main internal rival. Now that everyone is here, continue, Isabel said. A project manager stood up and began his report. The short version was this. Apex's major e-commerce platform was getting its teeth kicked in by a new, aggressive competitor called Frenzy. Frenzy was using a ridiculously viral / its social marketing scheme to bleed Apex dry, and our daily active users were in a freefall. The executives argued for half an hour, but their only idea was to fight fire with fire, dump more money into subsidies, and try to outspend the competition. Outspend them? Are you insane? Ken Zhao slammed his hand on the table. Frenzy is backed by a dozen venture capital firms. They have nothing to lose. If we get into a price war, we'll drown ourselves. Then what's your brilliant solution, Ken? Isabel asked coolly. Zhao was momentarily silenced. Then he turned his attack on me. Well, Ms. Sterling, you brought in this. Chief Strategic Advisor for a king's ransom. He's supposed to be some kind of prophet, isn't he? Why don't we let him enlighten us? His voice dripped with sarcasm. Everyone turned to look at me, hungry for a spectacle. I silently cursed Ken Zhao. What did I ever do to him? I just wanted to play my video game. Isabel looked at me too, her expression unreadable, simply waiting. My scalp prickled. Frenzy's / a model. Of course I knew it. In my past life, it had become a phenomenon, building a multi-billion-dollar empire. Trying to beat it head-on at this stage was impossible. So what could I do? The only thing I could think of was the one major crisis Frenzy faced down the road. About 6 months from now, their platform would be rocked by a massive scandal involving counterfeit and dangerous products. They'd be called out by federal regulators, and the public trust would evaporate overnight. Their stock would crash, and they'd nearly go under. It was their only weakness. But I couldn't just say that. Who would believe me? Hey guys, I can see 6 months into the future. They have me committed. I had to deliver the message in a way they could. Process. I clear my throat. Under the weight of every gaze in the room, I spoke. My advice is to do nothing. The boardroom fell silent. Everyone stared at me like I was a complete moron. Do nothing? Ken Zhao sputtered, a contemptuous smirk spreading across his face. Are you out of your mind? If we do nothing, we won't have a market left to save. That's right. Do nothing, I said, doubling down on my guru persona. Just give them enough rope. Zhao was speechless with rage. Isabel's brow furrowed. Your strategy is to wait and see? Not wait and see, I said, shaking my head, trying to look as profound as possible. It's strategic patience. The Tao of business. I had no idea what I was even saying anymore. A tree that grows too fast has shallow roots, I said, pulling proverbs out of thin air. The first strong wind will knock it over. Our job isn't to compete with how fast they grow. Our job is to wait for the wind. Dead silence. The executives exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of confusion and pity. Qin Zhao actually laughed out loud. Ms. Sterling, is this the genius you hired? The Tao of business? Waiting for the wind? This is a board meeting, not a Zen retreat. This is utterly absurd. Isabel didn't say anything. She just looked at me. I met her gaze, my heart pounding, trying not to blink. After a long moment, she spoke. Fine. That one word detonated a bomb in the room. Ms. Sterling, please reconsider. This is madness. Zhao shot to his feet. Isabel, you can't bet the future of this company on the ramblings of some fortune cookie philosopher. I said, fine, Isabel repeated, her quiet voice cutting through the chaos. We proceed as Mr. Hayes advises. All budgets for competing with Frenzy are frozen. We wait. She stood up and gave me a long, complicated look. Meeting adjourned. She walked out of the room. I was left as the center of attention, hit by waves of shock and hostility. Qin Zhao stormed over to me, his voice a low snarl. I don't know what kind of spell you've cast on her, kid, but you'd better pray your wind shows up, because if this company takes a hit because of your Taoist nonsense, I'll personally throw you out of this building. I looked at him, wanting to say, buddy, you have no idea how badly I want that to happen. Leo scurried over, his eyes shining with pure adoration. Mr. Hayes, you were incredible. Strategic patience. Wait for the wind. It's the highest level of business philosophy. Did you derive that from Sun Tzu? I've always said that the ultimate form of business is art. Don't you worry, I will draft a memo on your core philosophy for immediate dissemination and study. I just stared at him. I stared at this assistant with an overactive imagination and felt a profound weariness settle over me. I just wanted them to leave me alone so I could go home and play my game. How did my life get this complicated? For the next month, I was the laughingstock of the company, the Zen master, the corporate guru. I heard the whispers every time I walked down the hall. Qin Zhao took every opportunity to ridicule me. At every meeting, he'd find a way to get a dig in. Well, look who it is. Here to wait for more wind, Mr. Hayes. Hey, Connor, Frenzy's user numbers hit another all-time high. When exactly is this breeze of yours supposed to arrive? Hope it's not a hurricane that blows us all away. I ignored it all, not because I had thick skin, but because I just couldn't be bothered. I had better things to do, like clearing the next level of my game. Isabel left me completely alone. She seemed to be taking my advice to heart, holding her ground against immense pressure from the board and doing absolutely nothing about Frenzy. It made me uneasy. The more she trusted me, the more I felt like I owed her. And for a guy who just wanted to check out, owing people was the worst. One afternoon, I was deep in a walkthrough for a new game's final chapter when Leo called, his voice frantic. Mr. Hayes, it's a disaster. A complete disaster. What now? Did the sky fall? I asked calmly. Worse. The company. Our stock price is tanking. My stomach dropped. I pulled up a financial app. Sure enough, Apex Global's stock chart was a sickening shade of red and heading south fast. It had to be because of Frenzy. Frenzy just closed a new round of funding at triple their last valuation, Leo said, his voice cracking. The market thinks our e-commerce division is dead in the water, and everyone is dumping our stock. Morale is at rock bottom, and Mr. Zhao has organized an emergency board meeting with several directors to call for a vote of no confidence in Ms. Sterling. I frowned. This was happening faster than I expected. Where is she? She's locked herself in her office. She won't see anyone. I fell silent. I knew the kind of pressure she was under, and I knew it was all my fault. If she was forced out, my head would be the next one on the chopping block. My beautiful, lazy, do-nothing life was once again in jeopardy. I couldn't just sit here. Leo, listen to me, I said, taking a deep breath. I need you to do something for me. Right now. Anything, sir. Go to the copy shop downstairs and print 100 copies of this. I emailed him a document I'd prepared just in case. It was a report I'd put together from memory, a detailed white paper on the plague of counterfeit goods on e-commerce platforms. It laid out, in excruciating detail, all the pitfalls and regulatory nightmares other companies had faced over the next few years. Of course, I didn't frame it as future knowledge. I called it a risk analysis based on predictive data modeling. 100 copies? And then what? Leo asked, confused. Then you're going to stand in front of the building and hand them out to passersby. Leo was silent for a moment. Sir, you wanted to hand out flyers? How was that going to save the company? Don't ask questions. Just do it, I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. I hung up and leaned back on my sofa, my own heart racing. I couldn't directly tell Isabel that Frenzy was about to have a counterfeit crisis. But maybe, just maybe, I could create enough noise about the topic to get it on her radar. It was a long shot. It was a crazy shot, but it was the only one I had. Downstairs, in front of the Apex Tower, Leo stood with a heavy stack of papers, feeling like the world's biggest idiot. He looked at the river of sharply dressed professionals flowing past him, then down at the flyers in his hands. The CEO's executive liaison, handing out pamphlets in front of his own corporate headquarters? The company would be a laughingstock, but it was an order from Mr. Hayes. And in Leo's mind, Mr. Hayes was a god. Every seemingly bizarre action had a deeper, hidden meaning. The Tao of business. Strategic patience. Leo muttered to himself, psyching himself up. This isn't handing out flyers. This is a public sermon. Mr. Hayes is disseminating wisdom to the masses. With this new perspective, Leo was filled with a sense of purpose. He cleared his throat and stepped in front of a man in a pinstripe suit. Excuse me, sir. Interested in the future of e-commerce? This report will change your perspective and position you for the paradigm shifts to come. The man gave him a look reserved for cult members and scurried away. After a dozen rejections, Leo was starting to feel dejected. Just then, a black Maybach pulled up to the curb. The door opened, and Isabel Sterling emerged. She looked exhausted. Her face was pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes. The stock price and the board's rebellion were clearly taking their toll. Then she saw Leo standing in the middle of the sidewalk, handing out his papers. Her brow furrowed deeply. Leo, what are you doing? She asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Leo nearly jumped out his skin. Ms. Sterling, I'm following Mr. Hayes's instructions. Connor's instructions? Her voice grew even colder. He told you to stand out here and hand out this. She snatched a paper from his hand and glanced at the title. The Hidden Costs of Hypergrowth. A white paper on e-commerce risk management. This is ridiculous. A flash of anger ignited in her eyes. Does he have any idea what's happening right now? He's wasting time on these pathetic publicity stunts. Get him on the phone. I want to see him in my office now. Isabel was furious. She had staked her career on his bizarre advice, and this was how he repaid her? By turning her executive liaison into a street corner pamphleteer. She felt like a fool for ever trusting him. Just then, there was a commotion from the street. A news van screeched to a halt, and a reporter, followed by a cameraman, came jogging toward them. Ms. Sterling, Julia Croft, from Market Movers, the reporter said, recognizing Isabel immediately and thrusting a microphone in her face. Ms. Sterling, given today's catastrophic drop in Apex's stock price and the market's overwhelmingly negative outlook on your e-commerce division, do you have a comment for your investors? The question was a dagger. Isabel's security team moved to block the reporter. Wait, Isabel commanded. She couldn't hide. She was the CEO of Apex. She had to face the music. She took a breath, preparing to deliver the usual corporate speak platitudes. But the reporter's gaze had shifted to the document in Isabel's hand. Wait a second. Is that a white paper on e-commerce risk management? The reporter, a seasoned financial journalist, read the title aloud, her eyes widening. At a time when every other company was obsessed with growth, user acquisition, and market share, the CEO of Apex Global was focused on risk management. This was a story, a big one. Ms. Sterling, is this an official Apex publication? Does this signal that while the rest of the market is caught up in a growth frenzy, Apex is already looking ahead to the next phase of e-commerce, sustainability, and quality control? The reporter asked, her questions coming in a rapid-fire burst. Isabel froze. She looked down at the report in her hand, then over at the terrified-looking Leo. And in that instant, like a bolt of lightning, it all made sense. Publicity stunt? Pathetic nonsense. No, this wasn't a breakdown. This was a masterstroke of public relations. At the market's moment of maximum panic, when faith in Apex was at its lowest, He had manufactured a seemingly absurd event to draw the media's attention. And then, through the media, he was broadcasting a new, far more sophisticated strategic message. We aren't playing your childish little growth games. We're playing chess. We're thinking about the future. The audacity of it, the sheer brilliance, was staggering. It was a move so galaxy-brained that even she, a CEO who lived and breathed strategy, had almost missed it. Isabel Sterling instantly understood what Connor Hayes wanted her to do. She turned to face the camera. The exhaustion vanished from her face, replaced by her signature look of absolute confidence and control. "Yes," she said, holding up the report for the camera to see. Her voice was clear and strong. "We are not concerned with short-term market fluctuations. Apex has always been focused on long-term, sustainable growth. This white paper represents our vision for the future of the industry. While others are focused on reckless expansion, we are focused on building order." The camera flashes were blinding. Back in my apartment, I watched the whole scene unfold on a live feed from Leo's phone. I was dumbfounded. I was just trying to give Isabel a little hint about the counterfeit issue. How did that turn into a masterstroke of PR? Building order. What was wrong with this woman's brain? I looked at the Isabel on the screen, radiating power and vision, and then thought about my actual, pathetic, desperate reason for the flyers. It occurred to me that there might be a massive, unbridgeable misunderstanding between us. Isabel's order and sustainability speech, broadcast by market movers, went viral online. At first, the reaction was mockery. Apex is losing, so now they're talking philosophy? Pathetic. Building order? How about you start by stopping the bleeding of your user base? LOL, their stock is in the toilet, and she's acting like she's playing 4D chess. But all it takes is one spark to change a narrative. 3 days later, a bombshell news story hit the internet. Frenzy platform under federal investigation for counterfeit goods. Multiple reports of harmful products surface. The internet exploded. The same users who had been gleefully slashing it turned on the company with a vengeance. Scammers. I want my money back. They were so focused on getting new users, they didn't even vet their products. Disgusting. I knew those free items were too good to be true. The quality was absolute garbage. Frenzy stock didn't just drop. It fell off a cliff. In a single day, more than 30% of its market value was wiped out. And suddenly, everyone remembered what Isabel Sterling had said 3 days earlier. While others are focused on reckless expansion, we are focused on building order. Apex has always been focused on long-term, sustainable growth. The internet was stunned. Holy, she's a psychic. Did Isabel Sterling time travel? How did she know Frenzy was going to implode? That's what you call a real CEO. While we were all chasing shiny objects, she was seeing the whole board. I take back everything I said. Apex is a beast. Isabel Sterling is a legend. Apex Global's stock began to rebound with ferocious intensity. It not only recovered its losses, but soared to a new all-time high. Investors who had panic sold their shares were left weeping. And Apex's e-commerce platform, once left for dead, was suddenly hailed as a bastion of quality and reliability. Its user base began to grow at an exponential rate. A corporate catastrophe had been transformed into the company's greatest triumph. Inside Apex Global, the shockwaves were even bigger. Everyone who had made fun of me now looked at me with a mixture of fear and reverence. "Mr. Hayes, you are my hero." "Sir, I am not worthy." Qin Zhao's face was a permanent shade of purple. He had publicly challenged Isabel and been spectacularly humiliated. Now, he practically ran whenever he saw me in the hallway. And my number one fan, Leo, was busy deifying me. He held multiple seminars to study the white paper I'd written. "Look at this, people," Leo would say, pointing to a sentence I'd thrown in to increase the word count. "The end of engagement is responsibility." So profound, so prescient. Mr. Hayes saw the fundamental truth of the digital economy weeks ago. In this line, any business model divorced from quality is a castle built on sand. This is scripture. This is the gospel of modern commerce. The employees listened, enraptured, scribbling furiously in their notebooks. I watched all this from the security feed in my apartment and felt my soul begin to fracture. I swear, I was just trying to meet a word count. I had been completely, irrevocably mythologized. In the collective mind of Apex Global, I was an omniscient, borderline supernatural hermit who had descended from my mountain of wisdom to playfully guide humanity, all while being completely above petty concerns like money. They had written an entire fantasy epic, and I, a guy whose only real ambition was to perfect his nap schedule, was the hero. I was so tired. Just then my work phone rang. It was Isabel. My office. Now, her voice. It sounded different, less cold. Was that amusement in her tone? I trudged up to the top floor. Isabel was standing by the window, looking down at the city. She turned to face me, her eyes bright. "Who are you?" she asked, the question hanging in the air. Here we go again. How could I possibly answer that? Hi, I'm a lazy coward from the future who keeps getting lucky. She'd never believe it. I had to maintain the act. I tilted my head, looked up at the ceiling at a 45-degree angle like some wise old man in a movie, and sighed dramatically. Who I am is not important. What matters is that the crisis has passed. Isabel actually laughed. It wasn't just a twitch of her lips. It was a real, soft, musical laugh, like a thawing glacier or a blooming desert flower. I stared at her, momentarily stunned. "Connor," she said, walking toward me. She stopped very close enough for me to smell that clean, cool fragrance again. "Thank you." It was the first time she had said it with such genuine sincerity. "The board has approved a special resolution. You are being awarded 5% of the company's stock in recognition of your contribution." My brain short-circuited. 5% of Apex Global at its current market valuation, that was. What was that? Billions? Tens of billions. The room started to spin. I could never earn that much money in 10 lifetimes. With that kind of money, I wouldn't just retire. I could buy a private island and build a palace to retire in. I was so excited I couldn't form words. "There is, however, one condition," Isabel said, her expression shifting. "What condition?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You must remain in your position as Chief Strategic Advisor, and you may not leave Apex Global for the next 5 years. Of course, I should have known. This wasn't a reward. It was a pair of golden handcuffs, a chain to lash me to her corporate worship. "Can I? Refuse?" I asked weakly. "What do you think?" she replied, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. Her eyes told me that if I even thought about saying no, she would not only retract the stock, but probably freeze my account again just for fun. This woman was a tyrant. I wanted to cry. My life's goal was to become a happy, useless bum. Instead, I was now a multi-billionaire trapped as the most powerful and important wage slave in the world. How the hell did this happen? Ever since becoming a billionaire prisoner, my life had changed completely. For starters, I can no longer play video games in peace. All day, every day, people would find excuses to consult with me. "Mr. Hayes, what's your 10-year outlook on the semiconductor industry?" "Mr. Hayes, is the metaverse the next big thing, or just a bubble?" "Mr. Hayes, that concept you mentioned, the Tao of business, could you elaborate on its deeper meanings?" How the hell should I know? In my last life, I made PowerPoints, but they didn't believe my silence was ignorance. They thought it was a test. The more I said nothing, the more they filled in the blanks. His silence is a form of Zen. It contains multitudes. He's not refusing to answer. The secrets are too profound for us to comprehend. I get it now. He's telling us to stop looking for shortcuts and focus on the fundamentals. I was losing my mind. Secondly, Isabel started contacting me more and more. It used to be just for major crises. Now she wanted my input on everything. "There's a piece of commercial real estate downtown. Should we acquire it? We have a new class of interns. Which one shows the most promise? It's lunchtime. Should I get sushi or Italian? Lady, you're the CEO. You can't decide what to eat for lunch without me." I was beginning to suspect this wasn't about advice. It was surveillance. She was making sure I wasn't slacking off. The final straw was the upcoming annual industry gala. It's the most important event of the year. Every major player will be there. "You'll be my +1, she informed me, her tone leaving no room for debate. "I'm not going," I said flatly. Those events were nothing but a bunch of sharks in tuxedos, circling each other and spouting meaningless platitudes. I could finish a whole game in that time. "You have to go," she insisted. "Ken Zhao will be there. He's been seen with people from Horizon Capital lately. I think he's planning something. I need you there." "Ken Zhao." Horizon Capital. I felt like a tool in her toolbox, pulled out whenever she needed to tighten a screw. What's in it for me? I asked, deciding to negotiate. I'll double your monthly performance bonus. I'll get my coat, I said, my face breaking into a smile. I could endure anything for money. The night of the gala, Isabel's style team descended on me. They stuffed me into an obscenely expensive suit, did something complicated to my hair, and when I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Was this really Connor Hayes, the guy whose life ambition was to live in sweatpants? The event was a glittering sea of champagne and fake smiles. I stuck close to Isabel, feeling completely out of place. She, on the other hand, navigated the room like a queen, effortlessly charming and intimidating the most powerful people in the country. I spent the entire time being a silent, brooding accessory. It fit my enigmatic guru persona, at least. Soon I spotted Ken Zhao. He was huddled in a corner with a weaselly-looking man, whispering conspiratorially. I recognized the other man. I'd seen him in the news in my past life. A ruthless portfolio manager from Horizon Capital. Isabel's instincts were right. Zhao was about to betray her. See that man? Isabel murmured, appearing at my side. That's Mark Hansen, Horizon's top trader. I'm almost certain Zhao is feeding him our Q3 financials. I nodded. Can you do anything? She asked. I frowned. I couldn't just go over there and accuse them. I had no proof. I scanned the room, looking for an angle. My eyes landed on a man at the dessert buffet, absolutely demolishing a plate of pastries. That guy. He looked familiar. I dug through my memories, and then it hit me. I'd seen a documentary once. He was a legendary black hat hacker who went by the handle Glitch. He was famous for being able to crack any financial system in the world before he got too hot and vanished off the grid. The documentary mentioned one of his quirks. He was a pathological foodie with a particular weakness for high-end desserts. I looked at the guy again. His plate was piled high with macarons and tiny cakes. That was him. A crazy plan began to form in my mind. I grabbed a glass of wine and strolled over to the buffet. Impressive work, I said with a smile. The man looked up, his eyes wary, his cheeks full of tiramisu. Do I know you? He mumbled. You don't, I said, lowering my voice. But I know you, Glitch. The color drained from his face. He dropped his fork. You've got the wrong guy, he said, trying to bolt. Easy, I said, blocking his path. I'm not a cop. I just want to make a business proposition. I discreetly gestured toward Hansen and Zhao. See those two? I need everything they have on their phones and laptops related to Apex Global. Every message, every file. You do that for me, and I'll give you this much. I held up 5 fingers. 5,000, he scoffed. 500,000, I said quietly. His eyes lit up. How do I know you'll pay? Because I know who you are, I said, meeting his gaze. And as a sign of good faith, I'll give you another tip. The new pastry shop on the north side, La Bellevue, the chef trained under Pierre Herm. Their molten chocolate lava cake will make you weep. I saw his Adam's apple bob. He was in. Deal, he said, wiping cream from his mouth. Give me 10 minutes. He pulled a device that looked like a souped-up Nintendo DS from his pocket, and his fingers began to fly across it. I walked back to Isabel. Done? She asked, incredulous. Give it 10 minutes, I said, taking a sip of wine. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was an encrypted file from Glitch. I opened it. Inside was the complete chat history between Zhao and Hansen, along with a detailed plan to use the leaked financials to short Apex's stock into the ground. It was all there. I handed the phone to Isabel. As she scrolled through the messages, her expression grew colder and harder until her eyes were burning with a glacial fire. She looked up at Ken Zhao, her gaze utterly murderous. How do you want to handle him? She asked me. We turned their own plan against them. I said simply, they wanted to short us? We would short them first. Horizon Capital was heavily invested in a new alternative energy company. I remembered it clearly. Next week, that company would be exposed for faking its technology patents. The stock would become worthless overnight. Isabel understood immediately. She looked at me, her expression a complex mixture of admiration, curiosity, and something else. Something she probably didn't even recognize herself. Connor, she said softly, it's a good thing you're on my side. I just smiled. I was thinking, lady, if you hadn't shackled me with billions of dollars, I wouldn't be on anyone's side. My bonus for this had better be huge. With the evidence in hand, Isabel moved with lethal precision. She didn't confront Zhao. Instead, she set a trap. The next morning, Apex Global announced the formation of a $10 billion fund to aggressively invest in the alternative energy sector. The news sent shockwaves through the market. Everyone saw it as Apex, fresh off its e-commerce victory, flexing its muscles once again. At Horizon Capital, Hansen and Zhao were ecstatic. They thought Apex was making a rookie mistake, challenging them in their own backyard. Isabel is getting arrogant. Hansen crowed over the phone to Zhao. She thinks one lucky win makes her invincible. Absolutely, Mr. Hansen. She's overconfident. This is our chance to teach her a lesson she'll never forget. Zhao replied obsequiously. They immediately began to mobilize their own capital, preparing to crush Apex's new fund the moment it entered the market. They had no idea they were walking straight into an ambush. And I, the grand strategist of this whole operation, was directing it all from the comfort of my sofa, a bag of potato chips in my lap. Isabel, tell Glitch to leak the patent fraud story to the press. Okay, now our fund can start making some small, visible buys. Make it look like we're testing the waters. One more day, let them commit all their capital. Then we spring the trap. On the other end of the line, Isabel followed my instructions to the letter. She had come to trust me so completely that it was almost scary. For a moment, I felt like I was the CEO of Apex. Then I'd look at my bank account, see the massive consulting fee she'd just deposited, and remember my place. I was just a very, very well-paid employee. The day of reckoning arrived. Just before the market opened, multiple major news outlets simultaneously broke the story. Horizon Star Energy Company had faked its core technology. Panic erupted. When the opening bell rang, the stock didn't just drop, it ceased to exist. It opened at zero and stayed there. Horizon Capital, the largest shareholder, was instantly and catastrophically wounded. And that was just the beginning. As Horizon scrambled to liquidate other assets to cover their losses, Isabel unleashed her $10 billion fund. She launched a coordinated attack on every other major stock in Horizon's portfolio. The market smelled blood in the water. Anything associated with Horizon Capital began to plummet. Hansen and Zhao were in shock. They couldn't understand how Apex knew their strategy, how their perfect plan had been turned against them so devastatingly. By the end of the day, Horizon Capital had lost nearly half its value. Apex Global, meanwhile, had made a fortune. Inside Apex, it was a celebration. Isabel had secured another legendary victory. And I, the man behind the curtain, was elevated from guru to god. Mr. Hayes is a military genius. He's a modern-day Sun Tzu. Forget Sun Tzu. He's the oracle of Wall Street. Leo was practically weeping with joy. Mr. Hayes, I've decided. I want to be your disciple. Please, teach me your ways. I shove him off me. I just wanted some quiet. In her office, Isabel slid a document across the desk to me. Zhao's letter of resignation. I've accepted it. That's it. You're just letting him walk. A cold smile touched her lips. Oh no, he's not just walking. He's also paying back every dime he skimmed from this company over the last 10 years. And the evidence of his insider trading has been handed over to the SEC. He'll be spending his retirement in a federal prison. I shivered. Never cross this woman. As for Horizon Capital, she continued, they're crippled. It will take them years to recover. Hansen was fired by their board this morning. The war was over. It all felt surreal. In my last life, I was just a spectator watching the Titans clash. In this one, I was the one pulling the strings. Connor, Isabel said, her voice pulling me from my thoughts. Yeah. Are you free tonight? Why? Is another competitor making a move? I asked, instantly on guard. No, she said, shaking her head. There was a strange hesitation in her eyes. I'd like to take you to dinner. To celebrate. Just the two of us. I stared at her. The Ice Queen wanted to have dinner with me? A private dinner. Was the world ending? To celebrate the victory, she added quickly, as if she needed to justify the invitation. I looked at her. She wasn't wearing her usual corporate armor today, but a soft, cream-colored cashmere sweater that made her seem less intimidating. Under the soft office lights, I thought I could see a faint blush on her cheeks. And for reasons I didn't understand, I heard myself say, okay. The restaurant was a small, brutally expensive French place that screamed quiet luxury. It was a universe away from my usual diet of takeout and ramen. I felt awkward and out of place, unsure what to do with my hands. "You can relax, Connor," Isabel said, noticing my discomfort. "It's just us." She seemed different tonight. The powerful CO aura was gone, replaced by something softer, more vulnerable. She just seemed like a woman. A beautiful, intimidating, and slightly lonely woman. "You seem to know a lot about food," she said, a playful light in her eyes. I thought about the lie I'd told to recruit Glitch at the gala. "I get by," I mumbled. "I heard you're an expert on the desserts at La Bellevue," she teased. My face grew hot. "Just something I heard." She laughed, a real, gentle sound that caught me off guard. It was nice. "Connor, I have to ask," she said, her expression turning serious. "How do you do it? How do you know all these things? The mining scandal, the Frenzy platform collapse, the trap for Horizon Capital. My predictions weren't just accurate, they were perfect." I knew I couldn't keep feeding her lines about the Tao of business. I was silent for a moment, then decided to give her a piece of the truth. "What if I told you that I can see fragments of the future?" I asked, looking her directly in the eye. She froze. I expected her to laugh, to call me crazy. But she didn't. She just stared at me, her eyes wide with shock but not disbelief. After a long time, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I believe you." Now it was my turn to be stunned. You just believe me. "It's the only explanation that makes any sense," she said softly. "I've suspected for a while. The way you appeared, the things you say. It's like you're not from this time." I couldn't believe it. She had figured it out on her own. It saved me the trouble of trying to explain. "So, you're coming to Apex. That was all part of your plan?" she asked. "No," I said, shaking my head emphatically. "That was a complete accident. I swear my only plan was to make a little money and disappear." "Disappear?" she asked. "You're 25. Why are you so obsessed with retiring?" I looked at her and decided to tell her the rest of it. Because in my last life, I said, my voice quiet, I worked myself to death. In a detached, almost clinical tone, I told her the story of my past life. The endless hours, the crushing pressure, the meaningless work, all leading to that final, pathetic moment slumped over a keyboard. I left out the part about it being her company. She listened, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. "So," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly, "you've already died once." I nodded. I saw a shiver run through her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" I asked, confused. "I didn't know. That you—" She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. But I understood. She was apologizing for my death. Even without knowing the specifics, as a CEO, as a symbol of the very system that had crushed me, she felt a sliver of responsibility. A strange warmth spread through my chest. This ice queen, this corporate machine, had a heart after all. "It's in the past," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "And look at me now. I'm alive and, thanks to you, ridiculously rich." She didn't smile. She just looked at me, her eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't name. Pity? Sympathy? Something deeper? "Connor," she said, her voice firm and clear, "I promise you, once Apex is truly stable, once the foundation is unshakable, I will let you go. You can have the life you want." I was stunned. I never expected her to say that. She was willing to let go of her greatest asset, her profit, her golden goose. "You do that?" I asked. "I owe it to you," she said simply. The rest of the dinner passed in a strange, quiet haze. On the ride back to my apartment, neither of us spoke. My mind was a whirlwind. I had always seen our relationship as a simple transaction. She wanted my knowledge. I wanted her money. But tonight, everything had changed. This woman felt something for me that went beyond business. And my feelings for her, they were becoming complicated too. She wasn't just my tyrannical boss anymore. I had seen the person behind the crown. The car pulled up in front of my building. "We're here," she said. I unbuckled my seatbelt. "Connor," she said, stopping me. I turned back. She looked at me, her lips parted as if she was about to say something important, but then she seemed to lose her nerve. "Get some rest," was all she said. I nodded and got out of the car. I stood on the sidewalk, watching her car disappear into the night, and I didn't move for a very long time. My plan to do nothing was getting more and more off track. After that night, things between us shifted. She stopped calling me for every little thing. She started making more decisions on her own, texting me the results afterward, as if to prove she could do it without me. She was intentionally weaning herself and Apex off of me. I should have been thrilled. I was finally free to live my dream of waking up at noon and playing video games all day. But for some reason, the quiet felt empty. I'd see her on the news, still the brilliant queen of industry, leading Apex to new heights. But she looked thinner, more tired. One day, Leo burst into my apartment, his face pale with panic. "Mr. Hayes, you have to help." "What is it now?" I asked, pausing my game. "It's Ms. Sterling." She collapsed. My heart seized. "What happened?" "It's the Arcadia project. The big European consortiums are blocking us at every turn. Ms. Sterling has been working around the clock for 2 weeks straight, and this morning, she fainted in the middle of a board meeting." The Arcadia project. I knew it well. It was Apex's core strategy for the next decade, an ambitious plan to build a self-sustaining, AI-driven smart city. It was also a half-baked idea I'd pulled from my memory to impress her months ago. I never thought she'd actually try to build it. "Where is she?" I asked, already grabbing my jacket. "City General, VIP wing." I didn't wait for another word. I was out the door. In the hospital room, Isabel lay pale and still against the white sheets, and Ford dripping into her arm. She was asleep, but her brow was still furrowed in concentration, as if she were negotiating deals in her dreams. A wave of anger and a strange, aching tenderness washed over me. She was such an idiot. I told her she could let me go. Why was she still pushing herself like this? Was it possible that she was trying to build this perfect, futuristic city all on her own, just so she could finally let me go without any regrets? I sat down in the chair by her bed and just watched her. After a while, her eyes fluttered open. She saw me, and a flicker of surprise, of vulnerability, crossed her face. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to sit up. "Don't move," I said, gently pushing her back down. "The doctor said you need a rest." She relented, turning her head away from me. "Leo told me what happened," I said. "The European deal, is that tough?" She didn't answer. "You don't have to kill yourself over this," I sighed. "It's just a project. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work." "I made you a promise," she said suddenly, her voice rough. "What?" She turned her head, and her eyes, shining with unshed tears, met mine. "You told me you wanted to live in a quiet town on the coast. A house with a porch, a dog, a garden, to wake up when you wanted to." Her voice broke. "Arcadia, I was trying to build that for you." I stared at her, my mind completely blank. I thought this was about her legacy, her ambition. I never imagined she was doing it for me, to make a silly, offhand comment I'd made once into a reality. My throat was tight. I couldn't speak. "Connor, I don't need you to see the future," she said, her voice a raw whisper. "I just need you to be in mine." Sunlight streamed through the blinds, illuminating her pale face. And in that moment, I felt the last of the ice around my own heart crack and melt away. Doing nothing, retiring early, waiting to die. It all seems so stupid now. I reached out and took her hand. It was cold. "Okay," I said, just one word. But it was the most important promise I would ever make.